Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on a really major moment in the business world.
Yeah, and also digging into some, let's say, timely insights from a true legend.
Exactly. We're talking about Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, and, well, the big news from Berkshire Hathaway. He's stepping down as CEO.
That's the headline grabber, for sure. But there's also his pretty pointed comments on President Trump's tariffs and what they mean for the global economy.
Right, so it's kind of a two-parter today. Leadership change and some serious economic commentary from someone who's seen it all.
Absolutely. Both came out of the recent Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholder meeting. Big stuff.
Okay, so let's start with the leadership transition. I mean, Warren Buffett at the helm of Berkshire Hathaway, it feels like forever.
60 years. He took control back in, what, 1965? It was a textile company then.
Hard to even imagine now, looking at what Berkshire is today. Can you give us a sense of that scale?
Oh, it's staggering. It's grown into this, trillion-dollar conglomerate. We're talking huge names.
Like Geico and insurance?
Right, Geico, massive. But also, media think up. The Washington Post back in the day, major energy holdings, even food and beverage.
Yeah.
Dairy Queen, Kraft Heinz.
So really diversified, a true giant built over decades.
Exactly. A testament to his long-term strategy.
And then, at this recent meeting, the official word comes down. He's stepping down by year-end, and he's recommended Greg Abel.
Yes, Greg Abel, who runs Berkshire Hathaway Energy. And apparently, the announcement got quite a reaction.
I heard that. A standing ovation.
That's what reports say. Just shows the incredible respect he commands, after 6 decades.
Totally understandable. And it sounds like Buffett isn't just stepping aside, he's actively endorsing Abel. He said something pretty powerful, didn't he?
He did. The quote was something like, "I think the prospects of Berkshire will be better under Greg's management than mine." That's quite the statement.
That really is high praise. And Abel knows the company inside out.
Oh, yeah. He's been there 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
and he already manages basically everything except the insurance businesses. So he's deeply involved.
Okay, so he's a known quantity within Berkshire, and Abel signaled continuity, right? Sticking with the Buffett playbook.
That seems to be the message. He's talked about sticking to Buffett's investment philosophy, the capital allocation strategy.
Mm-hmm.
The core principles aren't changing, is the idea.
Interesting. So a new face at the very top, but maybe not a sharp turn in direction. What about Buffett himself? Is he, completely out?
No, not at all. He was very clear about that. He's not selling his Berkshire shares.
Oh, okay.
His plan is to give them away over time, gradually.
Right.
Which, keeping that huge stake really underlines his belief that the company's in good hands with Abel.
Yeah, makes sense. Actions speak louder than words, right? Keeping his skin in the game.
Precisely. And you can see why he'd be confident. I mean, look at the track record.
Yeah, the numbers are just, legendary. What was it? 20% average annual gain?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah.
Through the end of 2024, around 20% average gain per year in the shares. Compare that to the S&P 500.
Which is closer to 10%, even with dividends reinvested.
Exactly. So that kind of long-term outperformance,
Yeah.
It's why people pay such close attention.
And it's significant because Buffett always said he loved the job too much to retire, didn't he? He planned to just keep going.
He did. He often said he'd continue until he couldn't anymore. So this announcement, it feels like a very deliberate planned succession, not something sudden.
Right, a carefully managed transition. Okay, that covers the Berkshire succession piece really well. Let's switch gears now to the other major topic from that meeting, Buffett's take on Trump's tariffs and the global economy. He wasn't shy, was he?
Not at all. Very direct. He flat out said trade should not be a weapon.
Not a weapon. Okay. What's his main concern there? Is it just about, dollars and cents?
It seems broader than that. His argument is basically that using tariffs as your go-to strategy, it just messes things up. It antagonizes other countries, makes markets unstable.
So it creates friction where there should be, ideally, cooperation.
Yeah, that's the gist. He believes in balanced trade.
Yeah.
The U.S. does what it does best, other countries do what they do best, and everyone trades. He sees that as good for the world overall. Using tariffs as a club disrupts that.
And I think he also mentioned the diplomatic fallout, alienating people.
He did. He put it very bluntly, something like, "It's a big mistake in my view when you have 7.5 billion people who don't like you very well, and you have 300 million who are crowing about how they have done."
Wow, okay. So he sees a real downside to generating that kind of global resentment.
Clearly. And it's not a new stance for him either.
Right, I remember hearing he'd called tariffs something like
An act of war. To some degree, yeah, he said that previously. So he's been pretty consistent in his criticism of that approach.
Of course, the argument for the tariffs is usually about making trade fairer for the U.S. Did he engage with that side of it?
Not directly in these latest comments, it seems. He focused more on the negative consequences he sees. But it is important to note, even with this strong criticism of the tariff policy,
He's still bullish on the U.S. economy long term.
yeah, overall optimism remains. He separates the policy critique from his fundamental belief in the U.S. economic engine, which is an interesting distinction.
It is. He also touched on the U.S. fiscal deficit, right? Another area of concern.
He did. He called the current deficit unsustainable for a period of time. He didn't put a specific timeline on it, saying, we don't know whether that means 2 years or 20 years, but it can't go on forever.
So a warning flag there, a long-term risk.
Definitely. And linked to that, he seemed concerned about currency devaluation.
Ah, the risk that governments might make choices that weaken their own currency.
Exactly. He mentioned that Berkshire Hathaway, as a policy, avoids investing in currencies they deem potentially worthless. So he's clearly thinking about those fiscal policy risks and their potential impact on currency value.
So it's a complex picture, critical of tariffs, worried about the deficit, but still fundamentally optimistic about the U.S.
That seems to sum it up. A nuanced view, for sure.
What about all the market ups and downs we've seen lately? Did he have anything to say about that volatility?
He did, and it was classic Buffett, really. He basically shrugged it off, called recent volatility really nothing in the grand scheme of things.
Huh, really nothing. Easy for him to say, maybe.
Well, yeah, but his point was that Berkshire itself has seen much bigger percentage drops in its history. He framed it as just, normal turbulence.
Yeah.
Part of the investing journey, not something to panic about.
That perspective is probably helpful for a lot of people right now. Okay, so we've got Buffett handing over the reins at Berkshire, and these really significant comments on trade, the deficit, the economy. It really feels like the end of an era in a way.
It does. And his legacy is just immense, isn't it? It goes way beyond running Berkshire.
Absolutely. People know him as this legendary investor, but his influence is much broader.
You think about his early days studying under Benjamin Graham.
The father of value investing.
Right. That whole philosophy of buying good companies when they're undervalued, holding them for the long term, that's shaped how generations think about investing.
Patience, discipline, focusing on intrinsic value.
Exactly. And then there's the philanthropy side, which is just monumental.
His pledge to give away most of his fortune, mostly to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Primarily, yes. The scale is incredible. We're talking donations totaling over, $36 billion just to the Gates Foundation since 2006. It's one of the biggest philanthropic efforts in history.
Just incredible. Business leader, investor, philanthropist. A huge footprint.
No question.
So looking ahead now, Greg Abel takes over Berkshire. We've got this complex economic backdrop, the trade issues Buffett highlighted, the fiscal concerns. What are the big questions for Berkshire's future?
Well, the main one is how Abel navigates all this, right? He's inheriting this incredible company built on specific long-term principles. Can he maintain that value investing focus, that long-term horizon, while adapting to, today's world?
A world with maybe more trade friction, ongoing debates about deficits.
Exactly. How does that Berkshire philosophy apply in this environment? His decisions, his capital allocation, the whole world will be watching.
So maybe a final thought for you, our listener, as you process all this. Buffett stepping down, his economic insights, his legacy. Think about this. How relevant are those core Buffett principles, long-term thinking, value investing in today's world?
Yeah, regardless of who's running Berkshire or who's setting trade policy,
Right.
what lessons can we still draw from his approach, both in business and in how he looks at these bigger economic trends?
Definitely something to chew on.